Adam is travelling from Florence to Siena through the heart of Tuscany. Siena and Florence have harboured a fierce rivalry since well before Siena was conquered in 1555 by Florence and its Spanish allies. In this episode, Adam explores the defensive outpost of Monteriggioni, tastes hearty food and heavenly desserts, and learns how medieval battalion training became one of the most unusual and colourful horse races in the world.
As much as Florence flourished during the Renaissance, Siena flourished during a combative medieval era.
A time when pilgrims needed protection, hearty soup and soulful desserts. How did Siena profit at this time? Join me as I explore how on my pasta pilgrimage.
If Florence was the Athens of Tuscany in many ways, Siena was its Sparta. The Republic of Siena offered protection to trade and to pilgrims making their way to Rome.
Forts and outposts are scattered throughout the countryside. Outposts like Monteriggioni. Chiara, I want to know, what's the great rivalry between Florence and Siena?
Siena wanted to conquer the same territories Florence wanted to conquer. And we started the war, of course. Very, very easy. We are very close towns, you know. I mean, in the past, to go to Florence were 3 days, the journey. Very, very close. Today, in 3 days. No, in 1 hour, but the traffic is very busy, you know, sometimes there are more. But there were 2 important towns, one Ghibelline, Siena, with the emperor, and Florence Guelph with the Pope. And Pope and the emperor were 2 enemy powers, you know, and because of this we started the war.
So what was the purpose of Monteriggioni?
Monteriggioni was built as a front line to defend Siena. And you have to imagine behind Monteriggioni there was the area of Siena, and in front there was Florence, you know. And Monteriggioni was just to defend Siena. Because of this, Monteriggioni wasn't simply only a castle. Monteriggioni was a military camp. And here there were only soldiers, no women, no kids, just the soldiers. Just to be defended.
So these soldiers, they would have kept an eye out for the pilgrims also going through?
I mean, actually the soldiers have to be concentrated to defend the town, you know. But maybe we can imagine, oh, there is some pilgrims, be careful, the Florentines are arriving, you know, we can imagine that, but the soldiers weren't to defend the pilgrims.
I asked Chiara why the rivalry was still alive today. She said that the Florentines ruled medieval Siena for 2 centuries. They only left in the 1800s.
For us, 18 is 10 minutes ago, you know, we can't forget it. If you imagine in my family, for example, my father's family is in Siena since 1587. My mother's family since 1525. The Republic of Siena was finished on 1555. And a part of me have seen the end of the Republic. Because of this, for us, it's impossible to forget it. But what is important, we don't hate the Florentines. We don't love them, you know, but we don't hate, you know, it's a rivalry, yeah.
The soldiers were pretty successful in defending Monteriggioni. They built a strong fortification not easily penetrated.
These walls are seriously thick. I'm guessing great for keeping people out. But did anybody ever conquer Monteriggioni?
Never. Monteriggioni was conquered. Okay, no, okay, once. A traitor. A traitor. he showed himself as a Siennese soldier. He was paid by the Republic of Siena. He was part of the army of Siena, and simply he opened the gate.
So one soldier traded off,
Yes,
and in came the Florentines.
Yes, exactly. All the Siennese don't want to remember the date when we have lost, okay?
Chiara was pretty clear about the rivalry between Siena and Florence, and many pilgrims would have suffered through proximity, just getting caught up in it. Pilgrims that did make it through to Rome would stop on the way in Siena. After the break, we find out why.
I'm here in medieval Siena, and I know that it was an important stop for the pilgrims on their way to Rome, and I want to know why.
Being one of the most important stops on the Francigena road leading from France to Rome, Siena was a fundamental stop for the pilgrims.
In fact, the church and hospital in Siena offered them protection and shelter. While Siena had much to offer them, the pilgrims were just as important to Siena. With pilgrims came money, and with money came wealth. Siena set out to expand their existing Duomo to dwarf that of St. Peter's in Rome. Although the huge cathedral never happened, the Duomo still stands today as a monument to Siena's ambition and one-time wealth. It is one of the most impressive cathedrals in Italy.
The many pilgrims that passed through Siena also needed protection for their wealth, as they wanted to enter Rome poor. This was an expectation of this time. So they left their money here at Monte dei Paschi di Siena.
Monte dei Paschi is considered the oldest surviving bank in the world, and it was founded in 1472.
It started out as an institution, providing money in return for goods. Small loans with animals and grains used as security.
As the bank grew and prospered, it became incredibly wealthy, and the money they made was well spent.
On art. The bank owns over 30,000 pieces of art, most of which are purchased. But there are a few left as a form of credit. Like this one, where the artist has left a statement saying, "I leave this painting in exchange of clearing my debt." Amazing.
As well as art, the pilgrims brought to Siena their culinary traditions, and my friend Lella is going to show me how to make one of them.
Lella here runs cooking classes and is famous for her Tuscan food and knowledge. And Lella has told me about a medieval recipe dating back to 1326 that was a pasta cooked in a broth, in a brodo, called calcione. Now, back in the day, this dish would have been filled with offal and brains and would have more than likely used the bones to make the broth. Today, this pasta is known as agnolotti. Lella's making the modern day version right here with a filling of sheep's milk ricotta, chard, veal, parmesan, bread that's been soaked in milk, and one egg also.
Lella makes a few versions of the shape, and I imagine over the years, this is how the recipe evolves. Someone varies the shape or the ingredients and calls it something else.
Something you need to know about Leila here is that she's been doing cooking classes for 20 years and she was the first to start in Siena.
Si riprepara il sole, fuori.
The brodo that Lella scoops over the pasta has been made using a whole piece of beef. It would have been a knuckle or a hock back in the medieval times.
There we have it, calcione, or known as today agnolotti. Vogliamo mangiare?
Sì, poi?
Parmigiano.
Parmigiano.
Some parmesan on top.
Ah, no, c'è la carne. Buono?
Molto buono.
Beh.
A hearty recipe to nourish the body.
After the break, we find out more about Sienese traditions. A horse race and a spicy.
Dotted all around Sienna are colourful flags sporting emblems with animals and symbols. These flags represent Siena's contrade, former battalions. Today the battalions have gone, but the districts retain the name of their battalion. People are born into a contrada, will live and die in the contrada, and will remain faithful to it. How do they keep the tradition alive? With a horse race, of course.
The palio is a horse race, but more truly is a sort of a joust, a medieval joust or tourney, because it's not just a horse race. And it's the competition that the contrade invented to proclaim just one winner in the city in the 1600s, following a long tradition of horse races that existed in Italy since the 1200s at least. The horse that today ride in the palio are half-blood horses of a breed that is called Anglo-Arabian Sardinian. But the very peculiar aspect of the palio is that the horses are not chosen by the contrade, but are drawn by chance to the participating contrade for each palio in the initial day of the palio. Each palio lasts for 4 days.
Well, Giovanni, good luck with your contrada with the upcoming palio event.
Thank you so much.
Grazie, Giovanni.
Sienna has a cake called panforte, a sweet and spicy cake, and nowhere does it as well as il magnifico panificio. Adam discovers the story of this famous cake and learns how to make it.
La storia del panforte di Siena è avvolta dal mistero. Si narra che
Nicola
nel
tells me that the story of panforte from Siena is steeped in mystery. One version is that a nun, Sister Litta, in the year 1204, whilst clearing up the cellar, knocked over the ingredients and couldn't separate them. So she mixed them all together with the honey and made a cake to feed the poor. The result was pan melato, the father of panforte.
pensando di poter tirar fuori un dolce da poter regalare ai poveri.
Sienna is famous for its panforte, and as you heard, there are different stories of its origins, but there are two different types. This one here, really dark and looking spicy, and this one, covered in icing sugar. I was told to come to Il Magnifico to see Lorenzo, because he makes the best panforte in town. Ciao Lorenzo.
Ciao Adam,
How are you, right?
tutto bene?
What do we have here? Which one is this?
This is pan pepato. Vuoi assaggiare?
So this is the traditional pan pepato. Look at the color of it.
È il primo
Dark.
panforte di Siena. Prova?
Grazie. Seriously rich, full of spices. Kind of reminds me of a Christmas pudding back home that my aunties would make. And questo?
Questo invece è il margherita.
Margherita.
Che- Sì.
This is the one I've been looking forward
Ecco
to
per
trying.
te.
Look at all that icing sugar. Super sweet, super fruity, a little bit of spice. This is the one for me, seriously. Lorenzo, what's my chances of getting to know how to make margherita?
Sì, vieni.
Can't miss out on
Andiamo.
this one. So the first step is to take the zucchero and acqua, see?
Sì.
And put it into a big pot and slowly bring it up to the boil. So once the sugar has all dissolved and the water has come up to the boil, Lorenzo takes the liquid over to his mixing machine. He adds in the dried spices, the candied fruit, the honey, and starts to mix it all together. He then adds later the dry roasted almonds and the flour. Look at the mix. It looks amazing, Lorenzo. Io mangia. The flavor of the peel, the spices, the nuts. Bellissimo. Next, what do we do? So he doesn't work the mix too much. He just brings it all together, pats it into the mold for the panforte. This is where the real artisan comes in, because myself, I would have just put it into the ring, flatten it out, and thought it's all done. But watching Lorenzo do this, he's making sure it's nice and even, all compressed. Bravo.
Benissimo.
You know, this is a really special moment for me, because as a chef, having someone like Lorenzo who's been doing this for 20 odd years, even more, I feel very lucky. I want to make sure mine is nice and flat like Lorenzo's. È buono?
Buono.
O non c'è male?
Ok, no, va bene. Va benissimo.
The master, the apprentice.
Panforte di...
Adam. So Lorenzo's just covered his panforte with flour, and I'm guessing he does this so that it doesn't dry out and burn and crack and cooks nice and evenly. Perfecto.
Adam's time in Sienna has allowed him to see how history, food and culture combine to make an authentic culinary tradition. When we return, Adam will use the inspiration of Sienna to develop a distinct recipe that reflects his time in this beautiful and excitable city. Adam has discovered how the necessity of a city-state constantly at war has led to a culinary tradition of hearty meals, heavenly delights, and fierce loyalty to age-held tradition.
The pilgrims and the marching armies needed food with substance. And this recipe I'm making is a timbalo, which is a cross between a pasta bake and a cake.
For the full list of ingredients and method, visit Adam's Pasta Pilgrimage.
To start making the timbalo, we need to make a sauce. So, good amount of olive oil, onions and carrot into a pan. You need to saute the onion and carrot for a couple minutes. I've taken a capsicum, placed it in the oven on a high heat with a little bit of olive oil on a baking tray. Allow it to roast, take it out when it was cold, peeled off all the skin, removed all the seeds, and just dice it up. A little bit of salt. So when making any sauce, the main component is the base of it. This here, the onion and the carrot, is the main key. So make sure that you cook this off slowly for those couple minutes will ensure that you get a really good tasty sauce. Next, we add in some oregano, dried, crushed tomatoes, and add some boiling water. Allow the sauce to cook for 5 minutes. And what we're going to do next is add in some meatballs. But these aren't any ordinary meatballs. What I've done is taken the sausage, removed the encasing, taken the meat with inside, which normally has fennel and chili in it, so it's full of flavour, and just rolled them into little meatballs. If you want, you can make your pork and veal meatballs, no problems. But for me, I like to save time, and I know this is going to feed all those pilgrims and marching armies, or in my case, my family. At this point, we need to cook our tagliatelle into some salted boiling water. Now, my tip when we're cooking any egg pasta is to use the actual handle just to unravel those nests. Just be nice and gentle. They're going to take about 8 minutes. Whilst that pasta is cooking away, our meatballs and sauce is going to cook, come all nice and rich and tasty. Okay, pasta is cooked nice and al dente. Taking it straight from the pot into our sauce, just strain off the excess water. Now, using your wooden spoon, stir that through your sauce, those lovely meatballs, combining all the flavours. Next, we need to add in some parsley, chopped parsley, some scamozza, which is smoked mozzarella, which is grated, parmesan, some boiled eggs. I've just hard boiled these, taken the shell off, just roughly chopped them up. This is optional, some chili, some fresh basil, just picking it, no need to chop, and mix it all together. So this is the cakey bit about this pasta dish. So you take a baking dish, spring form, around 20 odd centimetres, some glad bake, some butter, and just rub that all the way around the tin. Make sure you get into all the little spots. Now, what I've done here with these eggplants is I sliced them nice and thinly lengthways. Got a nice pan with a good amount of olive oil in there, cooked them till golden brown on each side,
onto some absorbent towel to take away all that oil. Now you have to line the cake tin with your eggplant. So starting with your walls first, then onto the base. The key here is to make sure you cover all the surface area. Now you add your tagliatelle into there, like so. Making sure you get all the sauce, cheese, and meatballs into there. With the spoon, just pressing it down so it's nice and firm. And finish off with more eggplant over the top. And there we have it. There's our timbala, which needs to go into an oven about 180 degrees for about 30 minutes. So there we have it. I've taken it out of the oven, allowed it to cool for about 20 minutes, straight onto a plate. Straight off. Look at that. Beautiful timbala. I've discovered that the opulence of the Medici, the simplicity of the Pilgrims, and the rivalry with Florence through the centuries has produced the traditions and the cuisine that are still embraced and celebrated in the Sienna of today.
Next time, Adam discovers that although Sienna and Florence are at the heart of Tuscan history, Tuscany played a key role in Italian history from Etruscan time to the modern Republic. And along the way, he discovers a pasta shape that is all about the south of Tuscany. For this episode's recipes, stories and more, visit Adam's Pasta Pilgrimage